Welcome to Farm Charm Chic. I'm Emily. In today's episode, I have some beautiful autumn themed DIYs. These are super simple to put together, and I think you guys are really going to like these. It's part of a collaboration, so there is a playlist. I'll explain a little bit more about that as we get into the video. If you like crafting, DIYs, dupes, hacks, thrift flips, or just creating in general, I would love if you would consider subscribing. If you do like any of today's projects, remember to hit that thumbs up. But let's go make some DIYs. I love picking up these different blocks at Dollar Tree. They come out every season with a few different designs of these, and I'll pick them up 2 or 3 at a time and have them for different projects. Now this is just a piece that I had used prior just in my stash, and it's about 5 inches. The measurement really doesn't matter too much. You just do what's going to fit your pieces that you're using, and I'll show you kind of what I mean in a moment here. Now the paint that I'm using is just some chalk paint, and I'm doing a very messy coat on here. I did just use some water, like a spray bottle of water and a putty knife to scrape off the original design from Dollar Tree, so that's how you would get that off. Now I'm just taking some scrapbook paper here. This one came from Hobby Lobby, I believe last year or the year before. They have very similar designs from year to year, so just get what matches your decor. And I traced out that little rectangle shape there, and then I will just cut outside of my line there. So I want this to be just slightly bigger than my surface because I want to clean it up, and I'll show you that here in a moment. To get this paper adhered to my surface, I'm just using my trusty purple Elmer school glue. You guys, I love this stuff, and if you like using it in your craft projects, I'm going to tell you a little secret. This time of year and fall time at back to school, the back to school stuff will start to go on clearance as the kids go back to school. And I swear they always have, at least at my Walmarts, they always have a ton of this glue, and they mark it down super cheap, like 25 cents for one of those big things that's normally like $2.50 or something. So watch for that because it's a great deal. I buy it in bulk, and I totally stock up on it this time of year when it's back to school. Now I'm taking my brayer, and I'm just going to roll this on here, and that's going to get out any air bubbles. It's going to make sure that you get a good bond between your paper and your surface. Now the paper where it's slightly bigger, you're going to have a little bit of it hanging over the edge, and that's exactly what we want, because we'll take a fingernail file, and I'm just going to file slowly in a downward motion on this paper here against the surface, and you can see that edge coming off. So it's going to make that edge look completely like it was made to go on this surface. So it's going to make them look as one, not that it was paper glued to your surface. Now I decided to take this a step further, and I am sanding a little bit more into the paper and the block, just because I wanted a little bit more of a rounded edge to it, so in the rounded corner, so it did look a little more rustic. That's definitely my style. It just depends on if that's something you want to do or not. If you don't want to take this step, by all means don't. Now you can see that there's a little bit of the whiteness to the paper there from it being sanded. So I'm just taking a little bit of antiquing wax. Just any antiquing wax, water-based, will work. And I'm using a baby wipe, but a wet paper towel would also work. And I'm just going to go around this edge, and it's just going to tone that down so you don't see the white. I decided to kind of go over the paper there, and then the rest of the block with the little bit of antiquing wax also, just to tone that white down just a little bit. That's something that wouldn't be necessary, but once I started doing it, I really did like the way that it looked. So this has been sitting in my stash for a couple of years. It's just a pumpkin like pick for your planters boxes, like on your porch or something. You could easily use these from Dollar Tree. You could use something from a sign like this right here. I've also seen different picks at Walmart that you could grab to use. You just need a pumpkin shape that's a little bit smaller than your surface. So I just took the backing or that stick off of my pumpkin, and then I'm sitting here with some Spanish moss trying to decide whether or not to put this on. It's a very nice clean look without it. However, I do end up liking the texture that the Spanish moss adds. Plus it gives you a good surface to glue your pumpkin to. It really is a matter of if you like it or if you don't. I did end up liking it just because I love to add different texture to different projects. I felt it almost added a little bit of a French country touch to this, and so I definitely loved it. So I'm just using some hot glue to glue that down, and we're talking just the littlest bit of Spanish moss. Don't overdo it and have it look like a bird's nest or anything, or have it be too shaggy. You want it so it's not going to get all over your house or anything like that. But just be careful when you're gluing it down, because the glue does seep through there, and every time I do this, I swear I end up going, ouch, that's hot. I forget. So just remember that. Then I just used some hot glue to glue this pumpkin on top of that Spanish moss, and look at how beautiful this turns out. This turns out so simple, and I just think it will be the perfect little piece to sit on a shelf or to tuck in your home decor for fall. If you even wanted to take it a step further and put some words on it over the paper there, or paint it a solid color, put something on it. I just love the simplicity of this paper though. I'm very anxious to know what you guys think of this project. Do you guys like it? Today's video is part of an autumn collaboration. It is hosted by Liana DIY, and our guest hosts are DIY at the JoAnns Nest and DIY from House to Home. There's going to be a playlist link down in my description box that you can click on. It's going to take you over and play all of these wonderful YouTubers' videos. You can get all of that fall and autumn inspiration. I am also joined by Lori Bly DIY and DIY with Amber, and you guys are going to love all of the wonderful things that they have created for you. So pinned in my comments and in my description box will be a link to that playlist. Once you click on that, it'll just start playing it, and you'll be able to get all of those fun fall and autumn feels that you're looking for. Let's get right back into the DIYs. Do you guys ever start making a project with one idea in mind and then it completely keeps changing as you go along? This is exactly that project for me. So I'm just starting with this little sign from Dollar Tree, and this ends up being mostly a Dollar Tree project. And it had this cute little 3D pumpkin on here, and by 3D I just mean that it was popped out a little bit with some little foam blocks. So I'm just using my scraping tool just to kind of get under that and peel that off. And I want to leave those on the back. Now, if you're building this from scratch and you're using like one of just the regular wood pumpkins, you would just use some of the little square blocks on the back from Dollar Tree to pop your pumpkin out. But where this already had those foam risers on there, I just left those. Now I'm just using a piece of scrap paper. You can see that I'd used it for another project there, so it was just sitting in my scrapbook stash. So any paper would work. You could even paint this if you wanted. I think a plaid would look really pretty. I just didn't have any plaid, but I really liked this kind of fall feel, this autumn feel to this paper with the cute little pumpkins all over there. I'm just using that Elmer's school glue to get a nice good coverage on the surface there, and then I just place that paper on there, and I'm going to get my brayer and just roll this over. This is going to get out any bubbles, smooth it out. It's going to make sure you have a really good bond between your paper and the surface. Now if you're a Mod Podger and that works well for you and you have a lot of success with that, or however you like to adhere your paper to surfaces, definitely use that. I'm just showing you what works best for me. Now to make sure that the edges are all cleaned up, I just take a fingernail file and I go around all of those edges just in a downward motion to clean that up so I don't have an excess of paper hanging over the edge. Now I'm using just a little bit of hot glue so I can get this backing back in the sign. Now it takes me a second here to get this. I just want to make sure that I'm getting everything lined up there, and then I just push that down and it should pop right back into place. Now I'm using another kind of scrapbook paper here. This is kind of a wood tone, and I decided to trace out the pumpkin. Originally I was going to paint this pumpkin, but I thought I found this wood paper when I was going through my paper to find that original pumpkin one, and I thought, well, this kind of matches the frame, and so I'm just taking this. I thought it would be kind of fun to have a natural looking pumpkin on there. I do kind of like a bubble cut around this because I want there to be excess so we can sand it off and have it look really nice. Now this pumpkin had some writing on it, and the writing was doused in glitter, so I sanded that off so I would have a flat surface to work with. When I put that paper down, you don't see those letters pop up or anything. So I'm just going to use again that Elmer's school glue on my surface, and I turn that pumpkin upside down as you saw to place that paper on. Now I did use my brayer. I just didn't show that. I got everything, did the whole system again with getting that paper adhered to this, and then I'm just going to sand in a downward motion. You can see how well that works there to get that off, and I'm just going to use some antiquing wax on like a baby wipe or wet paper towel to go around the edge. That way you don't see that torn paper. And then I just take the excess and just kind of go over my paper there. That just kind of ties in that antiquing wax around the edge with the rest of your pumpkin. Now I have these little trucks from Dollar Tree, and I actually was just looking for the little sunflower. But as I pulled these trucks out, I thought this truck would probably be really cute laying on here. I mean, look at how darling that is. So this is kind of when this project started to take shape this way. So it changed again right here, but I loved the look of this on there. I love that blue truck. If you see these at Dollar Tree, I think they have a couple different colors of them, and they have different flowers in them. So the blue had this bright yellow sunflower in there, which is darling. So I'm just trying to make sure of how to get that sunflower positioned here, because I wanted to make sure that it was facing outward so you could really see it. It wasn't sideways. And so I just kind of play around with it a little bit. And these are like hanging ornaments or something. And so I just took that wire off that was hanging with it to put it on here. And the stuff that I glue on here covers up the hole to that, and so you won't be able to see that. Now I took a piece of wheat off of one of them. So they don't all have the same embellishment. So one of them has like the pumpkin, and I think one of them has the wheat or something. But I just took this little sprig of wheat because I thought that would look really cute glued behind there. And so I just took a little, you can see it's a little wooden dowel, and I cut 2 little pieces off of it to help pop that up. The wood squares, and I apologize that you have to see the top of my head here, but the wood squares you get in the craft section at Dollar Tree were a little too big for this. You could see it from behind. So just anything you have, like even a popsicle stick cut a couple of times to pop that truck out. The reason you want to pop that out is that pumpkin that's on there is a little bit wide, and so it naturally makes it pop out. So I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't like sitting at an angle, that it looked really nice. And so you can see I just tuck that little piece of wheat back there with some hot glue, and then I just do the same thing with this sunflower. I just made sure that it looked great. Just a little bit of hot glue there. And I'm loving my glue gun that I have. You guys know I got a new glue gun recently that's a cordless one, and I'm loving it so far. And so you can see how I place that in there. Now there's a little bit on the pumpkin that has like where I ripped that sunflower off, that you can see the styrofoam of the pumpkin. So you can see, I kind of see that there. To fix that, I just put a little bit of glue on a petal and just push that right into the pumpkin. For a project that kept changing shape, I absolutely love how this one turns out. I think it's super cute. I love the whimsy to it. I think that blue really pops on there with that sunflower. And I love the fact that you can take a piece that was cute to begin with, that sign was cute to begin with, and you can tailor it to your own decor needs or use it to DIY with. What do you guys think of this one? I have a lot of these pictures in my stash that come from home decor stores when they go on sale, and they're perfect to use for projects like this. Now I have these stencils that I got from Essential Stencils, and I'm just deciding which one to use here, and I thought this one would look really, really cute. So I'm excited to try this. This is the first time that I've used Essential Stencils, and I'm very impressed. I anticipate more coming because it was so fun to use. Now, and it turns out beautifully. Now on this picture, you can see how there's this natural wood finish to the background. Obviously, I'm going to paint over where the words are so we can put our stencil on there. But I thought it would be kind of fun and an interesting look, kind of different, to tape around the border here and make kind of like a mat framing the area where my stencil is going to look. So it's going to be like a faux photo mat or something. Anyhow, so I tape all the way around just one little section of my painter's tape. That was kind of my trick to make the stencil fit on here. It looks really good in the end, so I'm excited to show you guys what it looks like. So I'm just taking some white chalk paint. I believe this is just kind of an off-white color. I thought that would look best for the stencil that I was going with, so that way I could have the colors of the stencil show up really well on here. And I'm just going over the border of this tape here to make sure that I get a crisp line. It takes about 2 coats of paint. I did 1 coat and it gave pretty good coverage, but I could still see a little bit of that original saying on there. So just 2 coats of the chalk paint over this gave me a clean surface to work with for my stencil, and it also covered up the complete design in the background there. So now I'm just grabbing my stencil and I'm centering it the best that I can there. If you're a measurer, you can definitely get out a ruler or some way to measure it here. I did just kind of eyeball it here. using like spacing with my finger there from the edges to get it straight. And I did use some painter's tape to tape it down because I didn't want this moving at all, because I do want to use a couple of different colors on the stencil. And so when I go from one color to the next, I don't want this to move or budge or anything like that. So just a little bit of painter's tape. I did all 4 corners and then a little bit on each of the sides. Now, Essential Stencil has these wonderful stencil brushes. They come in a variety of sizes here. This is just the pack that has all of these different sizes, and these totally make the difference when doing stenciling. So I've in the past used like Dollar Tree stencil brushes, and you guys, it is worth the investment to get some good stencil brushes. These cleaned up so nice, and they really did make such a big difference. This turns out so awesome. Now, I'm using either a pouncing motion or a swirling motion. The swirling motion made sure that I got into all of the little areas there. That's what ended up working the best, but sometimes around the edges and some of those letters, a pouncing motion would work if the swirling was kind of not getting what you needed there. And you can just see exactly what I'm doing there. I pounce and I swirl, just kind of a combination of both of them. And where the stencil is taped into place, it's going to hold that so you're not going to have any bleed through or anything. Now, I was really careful around these tires on this truck design. I really wanted there to be the black tires, so I was really careful. However, there was some edges up close to the bed of the truck there that I could not quite reach as well with the stencil brushes I wanted. So I did just grab another little thin brush that I had and just kind of lightly went around that area with that, being careful not to go at all under the stencil, just to do a little bit of the detail work. Now, I pulled out my trusty vintage duck egg that I have been loving the last couple of months, because I thought that would be the perfect color to do kind of a muted turquoise truck here, that teal farmhouse truck that's so popular. And I do love that color, and I thought it needed some type of pop of color on there, and especially where I'm going to do the apples red, I thought this blue would be a beautiful contrast. So this has got some really wide areas of paint there, so you just want to make sure you may have to do a couple of coats to get the coverage depending on your paint and what kind of brush strokes you want in there. And I decided as I was doing this, I get to this part and there's like the little wood slats on the back of the truck bed. I decided I would leave those and do them with some brown paint, and I'm just taking a little thin brush because it was such a small area and just going over that as thinly as I can. And I tried to remember when I was doing this that it is supposed to look like wood, so if the coverage isn't super dark or it's a little sparse, it probably will look just like natural wood slats. So I was very careful doing this, but I didn't get like total full coverage. I just picked a deep red to do the apple color. I thought the contrast with the red and that truck would be really beautiful to have that nice deep red on there. Now, the stencil did have areas for like stems on the apples, and I chose not to go in and paint those with my brown paint. I was worried about how it would look on top of my red paint, and I didn't want to get too tedious or have any bleed through. I just wanted to keep it as simple as I could. So that's a matter of personal preference what you decide to do there. But I did just make sure that I got all the coverage that I wanted to on those apples before let them dry, and if I wanted to go back in, I did that. Now I'm just removing the tape from the stencil that's holding it in place, and that way I can get this pulled up and show you guys the reveal here when I pull this back. I really think you're going to love how this turns out. It's always that moment of like, oh, I hope this turns out when you peel this back. But look at how good it looks. It's beautiful. I love that color of the truck. Now, there was a couple of areas, and I mean just the smallest of areas, that honestly, if you weren't looking super close at it, like I was going, ooh, I probably ought to clean this up. I just take a little bit of white paint on my brush, and you can kind of see, I mean, who would have seen that area anyway? But it's always best to go ahead and clean it up if you can see a little area that needs a little work like that. And now you guys know how to do that. It's really easy to go in there and just kind of make those lines really crisp and really clean. So now let's go ahead and remove the tape on the sides here. So I'm just carefully taking each one and peeling that back, making sure that I have some crisp lines on these, that I had no bleed through or anything like that. As I'm peeling it back, I'm loving the color that matches. It matches with that truck quite well because it does kind of have a little bit of a blue undertone to it. And I think it just looks really good. It takes up a good portion of the frame there. Now, there was a teeny bit of bleed through right here. So how I corrected that was I just took my weeding tool and I'm just scraping a little bit, just very lightly, scratching that chalk paint off of that surface. I'm just using a baby wipe to wipe it back. All in all, I think this turns out absolutely beautiful. I loved using this stencil. I'll leave a link to Essential Stencils if you want to check them out down in my description box. But I think this is going to be a great addition to my fall decor. Even if I was to decorate with apples all year, I think that this would be just a beautiful piece to have, or even just if these were my colors and I just wanted that farmhouse look. I just think this turned out great. What do you guys think of this project? As a DIYer and crafter, your hands can take such a beating, especially your nails, and that is constantly what was happening with me. I love wearing nail polish and having my nails look nice, but with my profession, it is very hard at times, and I don't have the time or money to be spending at a salon all the time to have the upkeep that comes with having your nails look really nice. Now, Madam GLAM is a gel polish company. I've actually used their product for years, but they recently sent me this system that consists of a base coat, the gel polish, the top coat, and this darling little lamp that could seriously fit into my pocket. I've been very impressed with this. If you guys have noticed over my last few videos, I've been wearing it in my video. It has held up so nice. It goes on so easily. You don't have to do coat after coat, and it dries instantly once you cure it under this lamp. That is the beauty of gel polish. And the top layer does not have that sticky layer. So once you cure, you're good to go. Madam GLAM has been kind enough to give us 35% off. So I will leave a link in my description box to their website, and you'll use the code FarmCharmChic35 for 35% off of your order. Just remember to hit pay as you go, unless of course you want to be a monthly subscriber, which is also an awesome service. All right, let's get right back into the DIYs. Thank you so much for tuning in today, you guys, and watching. Did you guys enjoy these autumn and fall DIYs? I love getting into fall, and I know some of you in my last video said that you're not at all ready for fall because you hardly feel like you've had any summer, and I totally get it. I am somebody who loves summer, but I'm always welcoming fall, and I love fall DIYs, probably more than I love the season of fall, but it was so fun creating all of these. Remember to check out that playlist link down in my description box, so that way you guys can see all of the fun fall DIYs that everybody has for you on this playlist. Thank you, Liana, for putting this together for us. I really enjoyed it. I'll also pin that link in my comments so it's easy for you guys to find. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll see you next time. Happy crafting! If you liked the video that you just saw and you want to keep crafting together, here's another video that you might enjoy. And as always, remember to like and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.